And welcome back, everyone, to another RLT Pivot podcast. My name is Tracy, and I'm once again joined with my amazing co host, Mr. Dan Jansen. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good. So good to be back again for another episode of the Real Life Trading Pivot podcast. And we are approaching the summer months or the end of school year for a lot of kids getting done with school. That changes maybe our way of life that we've become accustomed to, where you get a couple hours to kids or school, you get to trade, focus on the markets. Now you have some additional distractions as far as not that kids are a distraction, they're blessings, but let's face it. I mean, if you're trying to focus on one thing and they need you every 2 seconds to do this or the next thing, it changes in one way or another. Just the zone that you were comfortable in, the schedule that you had, the pattern that you had down in your own life. So, how does that matter to you, Tracy? Does that put a different effect to how you might take a trade or be looking for trades?
Um, yeah, well, I mean, it does, absolutely. Any distraction, because my kids are no longer young, so they
So
can
they're
be
old, so they're just bigger distractions now.
no, but they're more responsible with their time. They're
Right.
not, they're able to take, they're able to take care of themselves for the most part. And that being said, I mean, they still need me. There's still questions that they have. There's still times where I'm distracted by it, and them being just in the room can be a distraction. So distractions in general, I think, are really important. First of all, for you to identify that there are distractions in your trading. And the next stage, I think, that's important for me anyway, is to recognize how those distractions affect me in my trading. Are they are they affecting me in a way where I'm taking trades and making mistakes that I normally wouldn't make? And, maybe I'm not checking my orders properly and I'm hitting submit or accidentally hitting sell instead of buy or buy instead of sell or, those types of things. So if it's something that's actually causing me to do something that I normally wouldn't do, I need to be able to identify those and then come up with some kind of a plan to work around it, because it's not something that is acceptable to be making mistakes like that are really due to lack of focus and lack of attention, right? How about
Yeah.
you?
I would think so. My kids are a little bit younger, um, so probably need a little bit more attention, especially and they're both done with school now, so it already the process for me already changed. The one thing I would say it's not so much the distraction of the kids; it's just that the time frame for me has to change a little bit. So
Hmm.
before, when they were at school, it was almost. I mean, they were still doing like half days, and she was a full day, whatever. But the time frame, as far as what the schedule was before, I had just more time to allow the patients to just set in, and you do get a little sense of urgency, like, okay, I know the kids are going to come in soon, or I know I got to take the kids to the pool or to XYZ. Got to entertain them, obviously. So I think it does put a little bit of for me, just time restraint on the trade. So I just want to get the same amount of productivity done just in a shorter amount of time frame. And I think that's a trap that I think a lot of people, and it could be other things. I mean, you could have relatives visiting for a week. You could have other things besides just the kids, being off from school. But it does want you to achieve almost the same goal earlier in the day, so that you have the rest of the day for the kids. The other thing I would say too is it's not. I wouldn't say the kids are distracting from trading the stock market, like that the kids are now interfering with the stock market. I think the reason I trade is to have more time with the kids, right? And I
Hmm.
think that's a valid point that I think a lot of people have to address. And you're saying, listen, I have a different schedule now because of XYZ, and it could be, again, kids or another life situation, whatever the case. But you're trading. You're not doing a 9 to 5 job where you have to punch in every single day, be there at a certain time. You legitimately can make your own hours, and if you're trading so that you have more free time, then don't feel so pressured in the beginning of the day to make those random adjustments, changes, that maybe you had just more availability of time to utilize before. So think of it as, listen, if the setup is there, if the trade is there, during that certain time frame, I could work. Great, I'll take it. It's my normal trade, and just have a more mind mentality. At least for me, I literally tell myself, if there's no trades today, I'll make money tomorrow. Like the money will come. But if I'm pushing trades, I'm forcing trades, I'm taking setups that maybe I'm not so accustomed to or haven't back traded, that's going to actually put me more negative for the year. And now it's tougher to come back. And now I got to have the same situation where the kids are still home and you still have other responsibilities and things that come up. But now I'm also trying to make back the money because I was forcing trades. So it's okay not to trade on certain days if your setup is not there that you typically look for.
Mhm. Does it make sense to not trade during the summer months if your kids are home, for instance?
Yeah,
If
I
you
think the saying is sell in May and go away, right?
There
So
you
I,
go.
I I think a lot of and not necessarily that means just don't trade at all. I think you could definitely trade. But what I would say is the volume in the summer is already going to be lower anyway, right? Because there's other people that are also taking vacations. They have other life commitments. They're going to the beach for a week or a month or whatever the case is, and you just see the volume in general die down. So if you miss those few months, it's not a bad thing. I would
Mhm.
still not get away from the stock market completely. I'd still be back trading. Use that time to back trade. If those kids go to sleep or you get a couple hours and the market's closed, start looking at how you can now start to improve or get better at the current plan that you have.
Mhm.
September to pretty much May is the most volatile periods in the market anyway, or the most volume in the markets that you're going to make the most. Do you have to stop trading altogether? It's up to you. I mean,
Mhm.
if your a schedule allows you to get a couple hours to watch the market, trade the market, the other strategy you could do is when the kids go to sleep, look for those trades the night before,
Mhm.
right? Maybe set the alerts on your chart. This way, if it triggers, you already have your plan in place from the night before of like, this is my entry price, this is where I would like to go. That would give you the opportunity to say, my alarm went off. Let me look. Do I still like the trade? If you do, then you could place it, and it might be a set it and forget it. If you're really that scrambling on time.
Mhm. Now, just out of curiosity, I don't know if this ever happens to you, but it does happen to me, and it's something that I need to learn how to deal with a little bit better. But as I mentioned, my kids, they're old enough that they aren't an issue. But I do have a dog that can be extremely uh, distracting at times, and I have found that during times where, because trading can be stressful, right? Especially if you're in the middle of a losing trade or whatever. And I have found that for myself, that noise is something that really agitates me in general. Doesn't matter what I'm doing, but in noisy situations, I get irritated by them. And when my dog is barking or yapping at me in the middle of a trade or in the middle of something that I'm doing, I find that my emotions start to get a little bit heated. They start to get a little out of control, and I need to be able to recognize that, stop what I'm doing, and calm down because I don't want those emotions getting into my trading. So I have to come up with solutions to deal with that distraction ahead of time or ways that I can quickly snap myself out of that scenario. Have you ever experienced that kind of thing?
Yeah. I don't know so much on the noise end of things, if that gets me, but little things can increase stress during the day. I would say that stressful could be trading could be stressful, but a lot of times what I learned early on, it was a nightmare. I remember when my daughter was just born, so she was an infant and she would be crying all the time and just random parts of the day because they're obviously a little bit more needy at that point, and I would be looking for trades, and then I would be hitting the button, getting her heading back to the computer. She's still crying, um, and that was the absolute wrong thing. Like that was the absolute. I should have honestly just taken the a few months off or whatever the case. But I just felt like I was missing out on the market, and I
Hmm.
didn't want to leave money on the table. And but it was just it created a more chaotic atmosphere. I would think by me trying to trade in that high intensity atmosphere where you really can't focus. I will say that I think once I'm in the trade, I'm okay no matter what happens
Hmm.
for me at that point. At least this level of trading, since I've been doing it for a while now. Once I'm in the trade, I'm okay. The
Hmm.
stress for me, if anything is going on, or there's the noise situation or whatever, would get under your skin and just kind of create that extra little anxiety or emotional distress. If that happens to me as I'm planning the trade, then that might throw off my thought system. But getting into the trade at this point, I already kind of know if it hits that price, I'm out. I'm not looking to let it keep running. I'm not looking to do anything different with stops. Um, I already know like if it hits a certain pivot or something like that, I know where I'm moving my stops.
Hmm.
And at this point, just again, I think it just comes with doing it so long and just my trade style
Hmm.
that anything that happens after I get those shares filled, it doesn't really stress me at this point anymore.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and I
the
hear
the
you
pre the
completely.
pre trade does though.
Right, right. And that's I feel the same way. I'm not I don't have those issues when I'm just trading. It's only when, like I said, the dog starts barking and he's bugging me and I'm in the middle, waiting for something to happen and I'm about to move my stop for whatever reason. I need him to be patient and he's not. And then I can feel those emotions getting a little bit out of control and I need to step away. I need to either move the stop, exit, and leave, or exit the trade altogether, deal with that situation because I don't want to be trading when I have those types of emotions that are present. And the market's not causing the emotions, the dog is causing the emotions. And
Right, right.
it could be a very challenging situation. But I guess the point that I want to make is that it's really important for you to know yourself really well and recognize what those triggers might be, and then have some kind of a plan in place that will help you deal with them when they come up, because that's the point of distractions. You can't plan for them. They're like you don't know when they're going to come. You can plan on how to deal with them when they come, but you never know when they're going to approach. And it's always important to recognize what those triggers might be or what those distractions might be that could cause a negative effect in your trading in general, right? So,
Yeah, and it could be anything. I mean, it could be something big, something small. It doesn't matter. But when the ideal situation is you open your computer for the day, you're nice, you're calm, there's no caffeine in you, you're just mellowed out, ready to go, focused on the charts. Realistically, life happens, and you do have a dog barking, you have a cat scratching you, you have kids crying, you have somebody that was supposed to go to work in the household, they're home because they're sick that day. A lot of things could happen. Um, I like to just kind of use a base case for everything, where it's this is the scenario, and if I'm too far away from that initial base point where I know my comfort zone is where I like to trade, then I've just started just not trading that day or those hours, or maybe I'll miss the morning. I'll see if there's anything interesting in the afternoon or something like that. But I've realized for me, the like I said, it's the premeditated trade, that portion of the process of where I'm planning my entries, my stops. I know I want to get into something, and it happens with FOMO too. I mean, you
mhm,
see a stock start shooting out, and you're like, "Oh, I missed it. Should I just jump?" You start to feel that little bit of you feel a different way than you did maybe 5 minutes prior to that situation happening,
mhm,
and you want to try to bring your back self back mentally to that state. And if you can't do it, then I honestly probably just not taking the trade. What I would
mhm,
do is, or what I've done before is I've acted on it, and I think
mhm,
that's one of the worst things I could do, because now I'm just trying to get in. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just set my entries here. This is probably where I'd want anyway. I leave, come back, triggered, immediately trapped. All of that could happen. Or I'm just jumping into a trade before it even hits my price, just so I can get in and get out of the room real quick. And I'm like, I start reasoning with myself. Well, at least this would be a better price. I'll make more money on the trade. Yada yada yada. And 9 times out of 10, those trades that just don't work.
mhm,
And it's very easy. At the end of the day, you're like, man, I don't know what I was doing.
mhm.
I was out of line with that one. Just not in my element.
Yeah. Well, I want to bring up a little bit of a subject that might be, I don't know, questionable, but I'm going to do it anyway.
All right, live
And
on the edge.
this has to do with gender differences. So I don't really want to get into a, massive debate about this or not, but I do want to bring up the issue of possible things around female traders versus male traders. And the thing that I'm thinking about is whether or not women out there have kind of a more difficult time when it comes to dealing with the kids, in that there's an expectation placed on them that they're the caregiver. So if you are a female trader and let's say the kids are home, but let's say that your significant other is also home, is there an expectation that when the kids need things that you're the one that needs to supply them instead of somebody else being able to step up and take care of the kids at the same time? And could that be adding an additional stress? And how do you deal with that kind of a situation if you are a female wanting to be a trader? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, not all men are created equal. Some men are very supportive and very um, forward thinking. They're very much men of equality, but others aren't. Some
Yeah,
are,
no, this is
right?
a good, this is a good question. You're definitely going to get us canceled, so this is the last time anybody's hearing our Kevin podcast for sure. But um, yeah,
Uh,
it's going to be a hot topic. I guarantee it. I would say, I mean, honestly, for me, um, a woman's a woman, a man's a man. At the end of the day, we're all human. What your responsibilities are is up to the dynamics of that relationship, right?
right.
So it doesn't matter for me what your gender is, what you identify. It doesn't matter. I think it's just more of how the relationship works, where you've created the level of expectation prior to engaging in anything, whether it's trading or I mean, maybe the wife works and the husband is a stay at home father, right? It's very possible. Maybe it's a single mom, maybe it's a single dad, whatever the case is. Like there's so many variables that it would be hard to say this a female would get more stressed because of X Y Z than a guy or vice versa. Um, what I would say in that situation though is especially if you're taking on something new, like obviously if you've had years in the relationship and you kind of understand each other and that you somebody's been trading, somebody's been working or taking care of kids or whatever the case, and it's already working, great. But if you're looking to take on a new responsibility, or let's say you're the mother or father and you were taking care of the kids for the most part while the spouse was working or doing something else, but you're a day trader or swing trader, whatever the case is, and now the element changes where now the kids that you were taking care of, they are home more. That's a sit down conversation. That's a, hey, look, this is how we pay our bills. The option for me is I need to carve in 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day as the market opens. That's how can that become my time frame, right? And then I'll take care of the kids or the extra responsibilities while you maintain what you were doing before. If that's not possible, then you have to break down your financial situation. I would assume and say, I'm going to take the summer off. Can we afford that? Can you maintain the bills? I'll take care of the kids. Do what I got to do. I'll take off. And I mean, it might be an ideal situation. It might not be. But yeah, I think I'm a firm believer in for me that anybody could do anything. Like if you work hard at it, you practice, you start to build the correct habits in doing things. I think anybody could do anything, and how that affects other areas of your life or relationship, that would be a discussion for that couple, I would assume.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you hit it on the head with basically setting boundaries, right? That conversation needs to be put in place, and then those boundaries need to be respected. And I guess the other thing to consider is that, if you are a parent, that maybe you need to think about some of those things and how being a parent and trading could impact your trading, and what boundaries do you need to set up? And is it having somebody home to take care of the kids? Is it sending them off to daycare? Is it not trading during the times that they're home? What do you need to do in order to set yourself up for success so that the distractions don't become uh, a negative impact in your trading. And that's ultimately what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah, and if you think about it on a grand scheme of things, a bigger scope of life, the kids are like we're in very different situations. Your kids are a little bit older than
Hmm.
my kids, and you've already said they're responsible enough to know, okay, you're working. I'm gonna stay out of your hair for a little bit. When the kids are younger, yeah, they don't quite really get what's going on. They don't quite really understand. They might need more things a little more often. But if you think about it, and you're just worried, like, hey, if I take off the summer of trading, or if I have to slow down in trades, maybe I'm only able to do it 2 days a week. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a little bit of a FOMO of like, man, I wish I could be out there trading every day, or maybe you're trading and somebody else is able to take off for the spouse is able to take off for a couple of weeks or months for more, whatever the case is. In the grand financial scheme of things of your life goals and what you're doing, there will be a certain point where that becomes almost temporary and forgot about maybe 4 years down the road. Like four
Hmm.
summers from now, that issue that you might be having now, as far as trying to find that time, might not be the same issue, and you're kind of working your way back into a normal schedule. So don't feel the pressure. And I think a lot of people, I mean, everybody that I talk to, the first thing I say is, why do you get into trading? To make more money, right? It's either money or time. Well, if it's for time and it's because you want to spend more time for your family, then consider having the summers with your kids a blessing, and don't worry so much about the financial responsibilities at that point as much. And if it's to make more money, well, yeah, we all want to make more money, but it doesn't have to be today.
Hmm.
You have your entire trading career to make that money, by forcing something, doing something out of your element, doing something that um, you just I need to wake up and make XYZ amount of money every single day.
Hmm.
Why today? Why not? Why not in September when school's back and you're back at your normal schedule? What if
Hmm.
you made zero point 0.2 R's every single day as opposed to an R?
Hmm.
Is your life really changing that much? Probably not. I mean, you're still making money. You're still able to take that money and enjoy time with family and be able to achieve that. But everybody's life is a little bit different as far as how we're set up. Also, the safety net of maybe we have relatives living close, maybe we don't, to watch kids or help with stress or walk the dog or whatever the case is. But everybody's built a little bit differently, so it's a situation you just kind of have to look at for yourself and
Hmm.
your life. But don't let the distractions overtake your trading.
Hmm. So if I was to sum up basically what my recommendations, and I think some of what your recommendations would be, if you have distractions in your life, number one, identify what triggers you, what affects you, what are some of the distractions that could be negative impacts in your life. Two is set boundaries, have those boundaries respected, figure out what those boundaries might need to be and put them in place, come up with a plan to work around whatever it is that you are needing to do. And the big one I think is to keep keep your eye on the why, right? You mentioned that it's usually money or time, but even money, both money and time, are usually related to family. You either want more money so that you can give your family more, give your family better life, or you want more time to spend with your family. But either way, it's usually your family, if you have a family, that is important. And that's why you're doing this. So set yourself up for success and recognize that, because not everybody is at that level where they can get into a trade and they're not stressed. Not everyone is at that level where they can win or lose, and the emotions are detached from the action of winning or losing. There's going to be traders out there that when they lose and their kid comes up at the wrong time, they get snapped at, or whatever, right? What kind of message are you sending to your children? What kind of thing are you saying to them? And I'm pretty sure that 99% of the people don't want to do that to their kids. So recognizing that that's kind of a potential hazard of trading with emotions, then again, you need to be able to set yourself up for success and eliminate those issues. And you can only eliminate them by recognizing that they exist, or recognizing that there's a potential for them to happen, and then planning around it. And that's really
And
what
and
I'm
I would also
suggesting.
say too that the grass is always greener on the other side,
Oh, yeah.
right? So there's as much as you might come into it, and again, that would probably help with anxiety and just really getting your feet on the ground and really just understanding the spectrum of what you're doing and where you are in
Mhm.
life. I mean, just the same way that you're like, man, my schedule's changing because of X, Y, Z. Or do I really have to go on vacation this year because, I mean, there's no internet. I'm not going to get the same schedule that I had before. A lot of different possibilities, but there's always somebody on the other side. There's somebody that's working full time that just is like, man, I wish I could work from home and even get an extra 2 hours with the kids a day,
Mhm.
right? So just understand where you're at. I mean, it always looks different from a different perspective, but I mean, embrace it. It's a good thing to have those changes, to be
Mhm.
able to spend the time with kids, the family, things like that, and it's not a permanent fixture. School will start again next year, right?
Mhm.
So go slow with things. I mean, everybody wants to rush to the finish line. Just enjoy the race sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Just grab that bottle of water as you're running and slow down for a second. So yeah, I would say just try to center yourself a little bit before getting into those trades, and I think
Mhm.
that will help with the process of really understanding a grand scheme, bigger,
Mhm.
longer term picture of what you're actually doing, and how this moment that might be stressing you out this current second really in the long term is irrelevant.
Mhm. And you can also get them engaged, right? If
Yeah.
they're old enough, if they're interested enough, sit them down, put a laptop in front of them, throw on an educational video from RLT on how to trade. They're all free. Send set up the kids course for them, and they can go through that while you're trading and get them engaged. Right? If they start to know what you're doing, how you're doing it, they may be interested in it, and they can become an asset. Right? So
Yeah.
that's
I
another
I had
option.
I remember I think it was a year ago. My they see the screens up every day with the charts. So she comes in and she's like, well, "What are you doing?" She's like sitting on me. I'm trading, watching the trade, already in a trade or something like that. I'm like, "I need this candle to go green." She's like, "What's red mean?" I'm like, "It's bad. And I would lose money if it goes green. I'll make money." And she's like, but she doesn't understand money, so I had to relate it to ice cream. So I'm like, "We get more ice cream if it goes green." And she's like, "Come on, green." And then so I'm like, "Oh, we got some ice cream." And then she wonders why she didn't actually get it because then wifey tells me, no sugar before bed. What do you, out of your mind? So, but yeah, so she thinks I just make ice cream all day. She thinks I'm a ice cream
Oh,
maker, I think. But it's early entry level of like just understanding those concept, which I think is a
Mhm.
special thing to have as well. Just
Yeah.
really getting on board and understand. And at this point, they're old enough, whether they know if I make money or ice cream, they know, okay, that's if the door is closed, let's try not to bother or interrupt. And it's just kids will tend to learn that, and they kind of work around. And every once in a while, they'll still come in when they need something. But
Yeah.
um, it's out of my control as far as how that works. But it's just they have some kind of interest. They start to understand things a little bit more,
Mhm.
whether they understand how to fully trade or just to know, okay, mommy or daddy is using time to work or do what they have to do, and then they come out and play with us. They start to develop a schedule of their own, and I think that's
Mhm.
that's important as well.
Cool. Awesome. Well, folks, we were pretty much out of time. It has been a good conversation. Dan, once again, super glad that I had an opportunity to chat with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. And to all of the listeners, once again, thank you guys each and every week for tuning in to the Real Life Trading Pivot Podcast. Make sure you guys click the links below. Check out reallifetrading.com. We do have all the free education on there. And if you just are not distracted at all and just have ample amount of time, you watch and rewatch all the courses because they're only going to help you, especially when the volume picks up in September, to be able to really get back on the horse and trade. But we will catch you guys all for another episode of the Pivot Podcast next week.